Emery and Caleb first met each other about a year ago, right at the start of their last year at college. Everyone said they were made for each other, and they were indeed truly in love. Caleb had made up his mind that Emery was the woman he wanted to be with for the rest of his life, and Emery was expecting Caleb to propose soon. Most of their common friends envied their relationship. Emery's friends wanted to be with a guy that loved them so much like Caleb loved Emery. He would always be surprising her with flowers one day, special movie tickets another day, or a splendid dinner at a 5-star restaurant. And all the guys wanted to know how Caleb managed to woo a beautiful girl like Emery. It was, however, just a week ago that Caleb topped all those special occasions with the most spectacular marriage proposal one could imagine. It was an arrangement bigger than one you would see at the New Year's. The sky was filled in shades of all sparkling colors, as Caleb bent down on his knees and held Emery's hand and proposed to her. All their friends cheered them on, as Emery accepted his proposal. The whole group of friends enjoyed dinner at a nearby restaurant before heading back home. When everyone had left, Emery mentioned to Caleb that she would like him to meet her father, and she wasn't going to marry him without letting her father know first. Caleb knew how attached Emery was to her father. Her mother had passed away when she was about 10, and her father single-handedly raised his young girl. My dad was actually inviting me over on a weekend vacation upstate. We have a cabin over there. It would be the perfect occasion to introduce you and tell him about our engagement. Sure. You think he will like me? Of course, he's not going to turn down his little girl. It's a pretty long journey. I'm leaving Friday night. All right, we'll drive there together. Emery and her family lived in upstate Wilkins, in their small cabin in the woods throughout her whole childhood. It was when Emery graduated high school that she decided she would go to college in the city. Her father was free to chill out after that. His daughter was grown up, he had no worries anymore. He traveled from place to place, but he never actually went too far from home in Wilkins. Every now and then he would invite Emery over for the weekends to spend time with his beloved daughter. It took about 6 hours for Caleb and Emery to reach their father's cabin. It was about dawn when they reached there. The sun was rising, and Caleb was amazed at how beautiful this small town was. The cabin was a short distance from a lake, and all was surrounded by luscious trees and greenery for miles after miles. I wish I knew this place earlier. Look at this breathtaking view. You spent your whole childhood here, didn't you? You see this lake? It's called Lake Emery. My dad grew up here. He used to spend a lot of time by this lake. He loved it so much he actually named me after it. Wow, it sure is beautiful here. Emery's dad was more than happy to know his daughter was getting married, and he was very kind to Caleb. That night, he prepared a campfire outside of the cabin, and they sat out in the brightness of the fire, surrounded by the pitch-dark woods. Isn't this the time for spooky stories, Emery? Yes, Dad. Emery loves to hear scary stories by the campfire. She's 25 now, but the stories still creep her out just like when she was 12 years old. Dad? Well, if that's the case, I think I've got a good one, and it's a true story too. Go on then, lad. It actually happened to a friend of mine. She was babysitting her neighbor's toddler one night. The little kid had gone to bed, and she just had to wait out the next couple of hours till the parents returned home. She turned all the lights off and sat in the living room to binge-watch some shows. That's when the phone rings. She goes to answer it, and there's someone breathing heavily on the other end of the line. The voice says, "Little Johnny is awake." Both Emery and her father yelled out laughing. "Son, when you come to Wilkins, you have to know everyone here has that same friend that has that friend that babysits." That was lame, Caleb. Let me share with you a legend that everyone in Wilkins actually believes. It's about a 10-minute hike from here. There is an old broken-down house. We actually passed it on the way here. It's out in the middle of nowhere, tucked away right off a narrow roadside. A long time ago, a man lived there. He was very rich. As a matter of fact, his whole family was quite wealthy, and they owned hundreds of acres of land around here. The man met a simple country girl and both fell in love. The man's family wasn't too happy with the relationship, as the girl's family wasn't well-to-do at all, and above that, they thought the girl wasn't good enough for their son. The man, however, was an independent kind of guy. He didn't pay heed to what his parents said, and he went out and built a small house out in the middle of nowhere on a chunk of their own land. He married that girl and both lived in that house, and their marriage was happy and wonderful. Soon they had a daughter, and eventually, after a few years, they had a son as well. This was where the whole picture-perfect scene started to go downhill. Their son was sick, and not the physically or even mentally sick kind. He wasn't mentally disabled or anything. He was just a little strange. He was sick in his head. The son was very difficult to take care of, and by the time he was about 9 years old, he became too much for his parents to handle anymore. He had an erratic sleeping pattern. He would often throw temper tantrums, and sometimes he would just go missing for days after days, until his parents would find him living out in the woods. The man was concerned and worried for his son. He didn't know what to do, so he turned to his family for help. The grandparents took the little boy away and sent him to a special facility. It wasn't exactly a mental asylum. It was like a rehabilitation center that catered to people with special needs, like that boy. In desperate need of a solution, that man and his wife agreed to send their little boy there, because it was what was best for him. Days, months were going by, and the family got used to living on their own, not having to deal with that child. At first, they would visit him often, but gradually they stopped it altogether. They began living like they never had a son to begin with, back to the time when things were happy and wonderful. About 8 years later, when the boy was a teen, he managed to escape from that rehabilitation center. The staff searched everywhere for him, but he was nowhere to be found. About a few days after he was finally reported missing to the police, the facility called up his parents and informed them that their son had gone missing. His family was terrified. They were worried about his safety. They were worried about his life. He was all alone in the wilderness of the woods for so many days. What if he got injured, fell victim to a bear attack? He was in danger. He could die. The boy, however, wasn't dead. Roaming through the woods, he finally found his way back home. After 8 years, he stepped back into his house on a deep, dark night. He walked down the halls, feeling those same walls with his hands. He went into the kitchen and tasted some of that night's dinner. It brought him to tears. His mother still cooked the same meat soup. He was tasting good food after a long 8 years. He walked into the living room and stared at all the new portraits. His sister had grown up. There was a picture for every memorable occasion. When she graduated school, when she was cheerleading, her prom. He walked around the house as he floated through his memories. Finally, he stealthily crept into the rooms of his parents and his sister. It was a long time and a long wait to get revenge. He slaughtered his entire family. He chopped them all up into pieces. Now, content in his heart, after those 8 years of agony, he left the residence with blood still dripping from his axe and disappeared once again into the woods. A few days later, the remains of his family were discovered, and there was an uproar among the townsfolk. Everyone was horrified. The police were informed, and they vigilantly searched for the boy in every inch and crack of the deep woods, but they never found him. To this day, he has never been found. Since then, every year around the time for harvest, people have started to go missing. Those people would never be found, but what would be found in their place, every time, was a poorly tied yarn doll. Legend has it that the boy still roams the woods to this day. Over time, people have started to believe this legend, and they hang yarn dolls on their front door for protection. They say if the boy sees these dolls hanging from the door of a house, he leaves those people in peace. Nobody really has proof to actually know if there is even a boy to begin with. But nevertheless, every house in this town has a yarn doll hanging in front of their door. That was a creepy one, but you guys really don't buy it, do you? Well, Dad doesn't believe for sure, but I really can't say. Wait a minute, you hung a yarn doll on your door too, Emery? Yes, of course. What if it is true? There's no harm in staying prepared. I guess not. That's not where it ends though. People apparently say that the house is still haunted with the souls of the murdered family members. And if you go there in the darkness of the night, like around the time they were probably murdered, you could hear the whole incident taking place all over again. Alright then, let's go now. It's the perfect time. You're a daring young lad. Emery's father chuckled. No, Dad. Maybe we could check it out, but definitely not now. In bright daylight tomorrow. You guys like tempting fate. Haven't you learned anything from horror movies? They always go searching for the bloody missing guy at the wrong time. Fine then. Alright, let's head inside everyone. It's getting late. The creepy critters are gonna crawl up your feet any time now. Everyone headed into the safety and coziness of the cabin and retired for the night. The next morning, Emery's father was up early, as usual. He had prepared breakfast for the couple and went out for a swim at the lake. Emery and Caleb were a little late to wake up, but when they did, they found breakfast waiting for them at the table. Both feasted on their pancakes and literally licked their plates clean. Your dad's a good cook. Yeah, he had to figure things for himself after Mom passed away. He wasn't going to feed me cereal from a box every morning. He's a good man. I like him. So, Emery, you're not gonna go to the haunted house? Alright. The couple headed out in their car and drove out to the spot, where the broken house still stood. Emery had goosebumps the minute she stepped out of the car. There was an eerie presence in the old, ruined place. As they stepped inside, the wooden panels were all creaking. About every corner of the house was covered in spiderwebs and dust. The couple peeked throughout the house and sifted through the rubble and dirt. As they walked around, Emery spotted something half buried in the dirt. It was a book. Hey, Caleb, look, what's this? Caleb dug it out and opened it up. Both stared at the yellow torn-up pages. Looks like a diary. Yeah, maybe it's his diary. Who? The psycho murderer boy. Stop it, Caleb. Emery grabbed the book from Caleb's hand and began to read it out loud. There's a dedication on the inside of the cover. To my family who I love and who will always be with me. The first entry. January 7th, 1975. It's hard to breathe here, but I just have to hold it in for some time. It's cold and it's dark, but what feels good is that the medication is finally wearing off. I can finally start seeing everything the way it really is again. I'm finally free from this jail, from these torturers. I can hear their footsteps. Sometimes they pass by me, and sometimes they come too close. It makes my heart beat so fast, I'm afraid they might hear me. The second entry, January 12th, 1975. I'm all alone now. I have no family, no one to take care of me. But then again, I've always been alone. They never cared for me. They never loved me. All they needed to do was talk to me. I would have changed myself. But it's too late now. If they can't love me, they have to go. Sweet dreams for everyone. They're all down now. I can still hear them though. Always screaming at me. Although sister's voice is finally wearing out now. Soon they will all be off to eternal sleep. The third entry, February 10th, 1975. I think they finally stopped looking for me now. I've been staying out in the woods. Sometimes I chase down the animals here and put them to sleep, just like Mom, Dad, and Sis. I still go back to the old house. No one screams at me anymore. The fourth entry, July 18, 1980. I've left the woods. I moved to a nearby town. It's not far from here. Nobody knows me there. I hear people sharing my story. They're all scared of me. It kinda makes me laugh inside. I still come to the old house to spend some nights. I think Mom and Dad are finally proud of me. The fifth entry, September 25th, 1993. Life has gotten much better. I got a job, I bought my own house. And even better news, I met someone. She's very polite and pretty. I brought her to the old house. She likes it. I think I'll marry her soon. The sixth entry, June 9th, 1995. Today is the best day of my life. I have a baby girl now. Mom and Dad are finally grandparents. My wife, however, isn't doing so well. Maybe she'll go to sleep soon. It's hard for her. The seventh entry, March 22nd, 2006. I'm so proud of my daughter. She's nothing like me. She doesn't have the problems I do. She's much smarter. She has lots of friends at school. I take her to the lake often. She likes spending time with me there. I named her after the lake, Emery. Emery froze. She stood with Caleb, absolutely stunned. Emery, what in the world is this? Is this some sort of joke, Caleb? Emery shook nervously. This isn't funny, Caleb. And it's definitely not true. It can't be. Just then, they heard the crackle of dry leaves and twigs behind them. They turned to see Emery's father standing there, with a strange look on his face, tears running down his cheeks, and in his hand was a dirty, rusted axe. "That wasn't for you to read, child, but now that you have, there's no way out of it. You have to go to sleep." Emery and Caleb screamed out for help. "No, Dad! Please! No!" Emery's father filled the pieces of his daughter and her fiancé in a bag and dragged it far into the woods. He buried them deep, so deep that no one could ever find them. Now they could be together forever, Emery with her love, and him with his beloved daughter, his parents, and his sister. "Don't worry, Emery. You hold a great place in my memory. Sweet dreams forever. We will always be together. You're in a safe place now, my precious hidden treasure." Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel, because you know it's interesting.